What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back. Today I'm in the garage again working on a CRX. Today I'm going to be replacing the seals on the heating ducting. It's real old seals. They come off by just rubbing my finger on it, and they just eventually come off. I'm sure I'm going to run into some stubborn parts where I'm going to have to scrape it a little bit with a razor blade carefully. I got new rubber. It's not rubber, it's like a foam seal that has a sticky back. I got them from Lowe's. It was like a roll of it was like, I think like $6, something like that. Not expensive at all. Definitely worth it if you want to make sure you get the most optimum amount of air going through your ducting. Other than the seals, I'm going to be tidying up the rest of the wiring. I'm probably not going to be hooking up the oil pressure gauge all the way. I'm waiting on one piece of, basically it's a fuse jumper that can basically piggyback off of one of the fuses under the dash to get the power. I'll probably run the sensor into the engine compartment or on a motor and ground the wire and all that, but I won't be able to do 100% install on that yet because I'm waiting on that one piece to come in the mail. I also have to fix the climate control because there's a notorious thing with the CRXs that they crack. I do have a metal plate that I installed a couple years ago, and it comes with like a 3M backing on it, but it's really weak, so I used the 3M backing plus I glued it. But now, since it's been a few years now, the glue is starting to fail, so I got to take that all apart and re-glue it. It's not a big deal. I'll make it look good again. Yeah, so other than that, let's just jump right into it and get some of this stuff knocked out. Alright, this is the seal that I'm talking about that I'm going to be replacing. There was some around here. I just rubbed it off with my finger. It goes real easy. Just rub it with your finger and it comes right up. Now that I noticed that it's a little different on the ends here, but I'm sure it'll be perfectly fine to use the stuff that I got. This stuff looks like it's going to be a little bit more of a pain in the butt to get off. I might have to actually use a razor blade for that. Not a big deal. But not only that, I have a little bit of a gap right there. I want to pull the ducting back out and put a nice piece of new sealing on that and reinstall it so everything's all sealed back up. When I get that all done, I'll show you guys. So this is the stripping I put on. It's not working out as I 100% wanted to. I'm going to have little gaps here and there just because I suck. But it's going to seal a hell of a lot better than what it did before with the stock stuff on there. The box sealed up great. The problem I'm having is it's cold out, and I believe because of the plastic being cold and it's not sticking 100% how I want, so I'm not able to stretch it and make curves and stuff like that. It's having a little bit of problems. So like for instance, this side here I had to do a bunch of like a straight piece, got a bail curve there, and just had to make it work. It's going to seal a hell of a lot better than what it did, but I can deal with that. I mean, this isn't going to be a show car or anything like that. It's just so I get better flow going through the heating ducting. But yeah, I got all that done. The one I won't be able to do, which I'm probably just gonna run some electrical tape just around this seam, is this one. The stuff that I got is pretty thick, so when I went to go put it around this plastic right here, it was just too thick. I couldn't get this cover back on, so I'm just gonna stick it on and just run a piece of electrical tape around it. That should seal it up pretty good. After that, I'm going to tidy up the wiring underneath a little bit. I'm not going to go too crazy with it, just make it a little bit more organized, and then I can probably put the dash back in. Okay, YouTube, I got all the wiring all situated on that side. Put the dash back in. Unfortunately, soon I'm gonna have to source out a new dash because I acquired a crack right in the center right there. I think that's just from old age and removing it a bunch of times. It just end up cracking right where the bolt is. It is what it is. I'll still run it for right now. It's not too bad. But yeah, I got all the wirings situated. I did end up hooking up the boost gauge, or not the boost gauge, the oil pressure gauge to power and ground. So now that comes on. Show you that. Turn the ignition on. Okay. All gauges are coming on. I still have to put the sensor in the back of the block. That's probably gonna be tomorrow. The wiring on under the dash to get it all straightened out took me way too long. So this is going to end up being a multiple day video. So I'll be back up here tomorrow. I have a long weekend, so I guess I'll just continue this tomorrow and get the rest of the dash in and get that oil pressure gauge hooked 100% up. I'm kind of interested to see how that works, how well, how much oil pressure I actually have. But yeah, it's getting there, little bit by little bit.
Alright YouTube, it's been about 2 weeks since I've uploaded a video. Unfortunately, what happened was I got sick. I had a flu. No, it wasn't the coronavirus. Just normal flu. And so I was not able to come up here and work on the CRX. So basically I started, what was it, last Friday. I started putting the interior back together in the CRX, which you'll see some footage of that. Then thinking that I was going to be showing back up the following day, that night I just got real sick, and I was basically sick for a whole week. So, but now I'm feeling better. It's the following weekend, and instead of filming more of me putting it all back together and cleaning everything, I just wanted to catch up, so I just went ahead and just banged it out. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like now. It turned out pretty clean. I mean, it's not the cleanest CRX interior out there. but for how old it is and what I'm working with, it turned out pretty good. There's a few things that I need to replace yet, that when I took the interior apart, either it broke or it's just worn out. It's not a big deal. It's not going to stop me from driving the car, but it's enough to get on my nerves. But yeah, I'll check out the interior. Turned out great. All right, let's see. Oh, I was zoomed in a little bit. All right, so yeah, the interior's all back together, all cleaned up. Like I said, there's a few things that did break that I have to replace. But let's start with this first. As you can see, there's no more wiring hanging underneath because deleting the AC ducting, I was able to tuck the wires up higher. And plus, when I ripped it all apart, it gave me time to clean each piece before I put it back together. Gave a good wipe down because this car's pretty, it's pretty old. So pieces underneath were all dirty and stuff like that, and if you have allergies, it's not good. But yeah, it turned out pretty clean. Let me get on the other side, jump on in, which jumping in this car because of this bar is a pain in the butt. I gotta literally put my hand here, put one foot in, and kind of roll into the car. But alright. Now what broke is that vent over there is separated from the outer ring, so it still clips in but just not nice and tight, so I gotta replace that vent. I'm thinking about actually replacing the whole dash, because when I went to put the dash back in, I cracked a piece over here on the dash and it's cracked up here in the center. Plus now the little plastic covers that go in goes up there, no longer clips into place. It's not a big deal, still looks good. Another thing, the heater air conditioning controller, this part got pushed in, and for some reason, I don't know why, but this isn't adjusting correctly right now. I'm sure it just has to do with it being all jacked up, but this is a steel plate on the outer part of the air conditioning controller that I did many years ago. It comes with a 3M tape, which doesn't last long, so I used 3M tape plus I used Gorilla Glue on top of that, and I glued it all together, thinking I'll never have to worry about it again with the Gorilla Glue, but it's actually starting to separate. So I'm thinking about, there's somebody out now that is making a 3D printed, I guess, outer casing. So I'm probably gonna get that and change out everything to that casing, and hopefully it'll fix all my problems. What else? Oh yeah, I have to get new symbol here, and that's pretty much it. Other than that, it cleaned up real nice. I mean, it's all has scratches here and there, but we expect for a car from 1989. I still have to, my next step, I still have to put the sensor in for oil pressure gauge. I got the wiring all hooked up to this. I just have to get the sensor hooked up to the motor and plug it in. Then that'll be operating correctly, which is probably going to be my next step. All these still work. Yeah, the turn signal and everything that I installed feels good still.
the one video I explained that there's a plastic collar underneath the steering wheel here, and I gave you the wrong information, not thinking. You don't want it up and down, you want it sideways, because there's like a notch on the back of your steering wheel, and that has to line up. It locks into it, and that will help disengage your turn signal switch. So I'm sorry about that. It is what it is. I'm telling you now, just so you guys know that, you know, I'm human. I don't know everything about these cars. I like to think so sometimes. I know my fair share, and people do make mistakes. Yeah, so my next step is going to be hooking the sensor for the oil pressure gauge up to the motor, so this is fully operating. I have to look up to see what would be a normal oil pressure when you're boosting a stock B20 non-VTEC. So you're basically adding an additional oil line, so I'm sure it drops the oil pressure a little bit. I just hope it's not too far down that I'm going to have to put a spacer on the oil pump to increase the basically shim. It's a shim, and shim the oil pumps to give me a little bit more pressure. I mean, it's not a hard thing to do, but you do have to drop the oil pan, and I'm trying to avoid that. But other than that, it's pretty much all done in here. Good enough for right now until I get dual climate controller casing. I'll be pulling the center part out again and changing that out. That's gonna be real soon. I'll definitely do a video on that, and I'm probably gonna just wait on changing out the dashboard until next year. It's good enough for now. It's, you know, cruisable. But yeah, get to the next step. All right, YouTube. So this is my next step. Is the kit, the AEM oil pressure kit only comes with this sensor here, and the way that I have my oil feed to my turbo, I'm teeing it off of the oil pressure switch, and there's not enough room for another sensor there. So I pulled this sandwich plate off of a spare motor. I'm probably going to end up rebuilding this motor eventually, just a stock rebuild, throw it in something eventually. But it was on that motor. Nothing wrong with this sandwich plate, so I just put the oil pressure switch on here. There was an oil pressure switch from like a real cheap gauge already on this piece, so I know the position of it is going to work perfectly for the motor. So all I did was just screw it right into this brass fitting here. So now I'm going to change the oil in the CRX and install this sandwich plate and plug it in. Okay, YouTube, I installed the sandwich plate. Yeah, as you can see, the position of the old sensor is going to work out perfectly fine for the new one. All I gotta do now is put the oil filter on the sandwich plate and plug it in. Put some oil in it and see what my oil pressure is. Alright, YouTube. Well, I got the oil pressure gauge in. It's all working properly and everything. But I did one bonehead thing. Like, oh my god. I can't believe I did this. Alright. Rule number 1 when changing your oil, always make sure that seal on the oil filter is correct. Stupid me, I bought a cheap Fram filter, and when I put it on, evidently the seal wasn't in the right spot. So when I went to turn it on, I saw car only had like 2 psi. I'm like, what the heck? Then all of a sudden I heard a gurgle. I'm like, oh no! So I quick shut it off, and oh my god, did I make a mess. There is oil everywhere under the car. But I jacked up the car already. Well, first I moved it back. I jacked it up, and at first I thought maybe the sandwich plate didn't seat correctly and I didn't tighten it enough, which you don't want to crank this real hard. You want to just snug them up, which I did. And lo and behold, I went to take it all apart. I took the oil filter off, and there was no gasket on it. Oh my god. And put my hand up there, it's just hanging out up there. So yeah, I put it back together, put more oil in it, and started it up, and I got great oil pressure now. I'm showing around 75 psi of oil pressure when cold at idle. I gotta clean up this oil. I'll show you some more of the oil pressure and everything, but first I gotta clean this oil up. So just stick with me. This is how much oil came out. I said about quart and a half, maybe two quarts of oil. Oops. Alright, so cleaned up my mess. Had to go buy a big bag of oil dry. And burning off some oil I got on the exhaust wrap because I'm a ditz. But yeah, I topped it back off of oil. She's running at optimum temperature right now. And we got 29. We're a little on the low side of oil pressure. I'm not saying it's horrible, but it's not like the greatest. I might end up shimming the oil pump just a little bit. As long as it doesn't go below 20, I'm happy. But it's working good. Just got to burn off this excess oil I put on the exhaust wrap now. I hate when I do that. But it's running good. This just really pisses me off. But whatever. It is what it is. Nothing I can do about it now. I only ever done that one time. I actually took the oil filter out of the box, and there wasn't even a seal on it. Didn't even realize it. Not even thinking, you know, brand new oil filter, just throw it on, and squirted oil even worse than this everywhere. This time the seal was there. It just must have popped off a little bit when I went to go put it on and wasn't seated correctly. Now it's seated correctly and a whole lot better, obviously. But yeah, well, just goes to show, just don't think things for granted. It is what it is. Alright YouTube, so that's gonna wrap it up for this video. It wasn't a how-to, it's just me getting some stuff done. Next thing I'm gonna do to the car is going to be installing a Gates timing belt.
There's plenty of videos out there on how to do a timing belt on a B18 or B20 non-VTEC motor. So I don't think I'm going to do a how-to on this either, unless I run into a sticker. I got stickers everywhere. Unless I run into something that I feel is important to film. But I'm just going to probably do a time lapse on it or something like that. Getting closer to getting this car complete for spring. Obviously I still got the car back there running, burning off that oil off that heat wrap. I hate when that happens. It just takes forever to burn off. After that timing belt, I'm going to install the blocks, trailing arm, toe in, toe out adjusters. Then after that, I'm probably going to wait on installing anything else on the car. Probably going to go send it for alignment, get it registered, send it for alignment. I'm actually thinking about registering it as a classic this year, because I don't really drive it that often, so might as well. I mean, then I won't have to get it inspected anymore. And I think you pay one registration fee or something like that. I don't know. There's some guidelines I'll have to follow, but it's not a big deal to me. So the next video is going to be time belt. I'll probably be doing that tomorrow if everything goes well. But yeah, I have some more cleaning up to do to keep update what's going on at this shop here. I am currently looking for another shop. I had one in the process, but the deal fell through. So I'm slowly going to be packing things in totes. So when the time comes and I need to move, I can just grab the totes and go. I'm not gonna have to worry about boxing things up and stuff like that. So some things are gonna get thrown out, unfortunately. Some things I'm keeping, but it is what it is. I'm gonna try to stay in this shop as long as I can because it's stupid cheap. It's a little bit of a hassle for how far I have to drive, but it is what it is. For the price I'm paying a month for this place, I'll deal with it. But until next video, everyone be safe out there. Stay clean with your hands and everything with this coronavirus. Shit is no joke. But yeah, be safe. All right, see ya.